Hello, Denis Fedorov here. Today we shall continue this Russian cases series and begin already discussing Russian cases in full. In this video we are going to start with the general information about cases and understand how they work. And based on today's information in later videos, we'll go through each of the Russian cases one by one. So settle in and let's start. Before, we have discussed that the main grammatical difference between the Russian and the English languages is that the Russian language is a kind of language where the words themselves are very flexible and changeable. They are alterable and can change to convey slightly different meanings of their own. This very process is also common in English, like you can say man, and with this slight change in one letter, you are able to convey plural form, or in I, my, this transformation allows you to convey possession. So English words are changeable too, but in Russian this word alteration is very much exaggerated compared to English. Our words are much more alterable, which allows them to convey much more different variants of meaning. This alterability also reduces the role of prepositions and even decreases the role of word order so much that in Peter sees Paul, we can literally invert Peter and Paul, but still convey that it's Peter who sees Paul. In this situation, that's because of case. In Russian, always the one who sees will have an ending of one case, and the one who is seen the ending of another case. That's how we would be able to identify these guys' roles in the sentence, no matter what word order was used. So Russian words are very alterable, and the process when words get transformed to change their case is called declension. Declension is the mechanism by which five parts of speech, nouns, pronouns, adjectives, numerals, and participles, change their form to alter their syntactical meaning in case, form, or gender. So it's important to understand that this thing, which people usually call cases, is a declension, and it includes not only cases but also gender and number. So all these three components of case, gender, and number are kind of inseparable. And if you see a rule on how to change a case, this rule will always contain number and gender. So cases are just a part of declension alongside with number and gender. And if number and gender are intuitively understandable to English speakers because you use those concepts widely and natively in your language, cases are usually a completely new concept to grasp. That's why it causes so many problems in understanding. So, number is basically whether a word has singular or plural form. Gender is whether a word represents something of feminine, masculine, or neuter gender. But what is case? What do these nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, instrumental, and prepositional cases mean? How to know what each of these cases denotes? Because these names don't make any sense. First of all, let's figure out what is case. Here is the definition. Case is the form of a word which shows its role in a sentence. So the same word can have different forms depending on its role in a sentence. Obviously, there can be dozens of possible roles or situations for words. I mean that words themselves alone are usually not enough to construct sentences, and to distribute roles between words in those sentences people use word order, prepositions, and word alteration. In English, those roles are distributed the following. Word order goes the first, then prepositions, and only then word alteration. In Russian, the importance of those tools is exactly reversed. Word alteration is our main tool and case is a part of it. There are 6 cases in Russian, since there are obviously more possible roles for words than cases. In Russian, we also use prepositions like in English. We use them mostly the same as in English, with inconsiderable differences. But I must say that we use them less, because often case alone is enough to convey the role of the word in a sentence. So case shows the role of the word in a sentence, and prepositions help to express this role more specifically. That's how we can fit dozens of situations into these 6 cases. So, cases are forms of words. They show what role a word plays in a sentence and show relationships between words. And in most situations, you understand which role some word plays in a sentence by the word's ending. So, the same word will have different endings in each of these 6 cases. So, there are 6 cases in the Russian language that represent like 6 big meta roles, and there are sub roles that exist within each case. These sub roles are more practice applicable, but and also are called characteristics or models or examples of a case, and show exactly when each case can be used. So, in real life, the case is like a theoretical meta characteristic which simply provides a rule to use and a very basic direction. And these subroles or examples that exist within a case are actually those real life things that will enable you to understand cases and to learn to use them. So again, a case is basically a list of situations it is used in, plus a rule or a pattern how to alter a word into this case. So, before we were discussing Russian cases in the form of bigger picture, and today we shall go a little bit deeper, and the main idea I want to share right now is that a real life case is a much wider category than its description or its definition. So, in big strokes, the nominative case is the easiest default case, the subject case. So the words listed in dictionaries are in this case. It basically shows us who or what is performing the action of a verb, the main acting figure, the subject. What does this information give us? Just some vague understanding of its basic role, but examples give us the main practical understanding. That's why they are the most important in understanding cases. Here is an example of the nominative case. The person doing action. Nina смотрит телевизор. Nina is watching TV. This person doing action example is the best example for the nominative case because we've called the nominative case the subject case, which basically shows us who or what is performing the action of the verb. So, yes, it's the nominative case. Nina is the subject performing an action. But the nominative case is not only about an easily recognizable subject, but also about several things more. It's much wider than a subject thing. There are 8 basic characteristics of this case, and this subject thing is just one of them, however, the most common. So here are 8 main examples of this nominative case. So here are 8 most common situations for the nominative case. They are all different but like share a common spirit. These situations are pretty alike because they belong to the same case. The nominative case is the default case, that's why it doesn't require any prepositions. Just to remind you, the nominative case is not used with prepositions at all. The last prepositional case is always used with prepositions, even its name says so. And other cases are mixed cases because they can be used with a preposition or without it. So let's get back to our 8 characteristics of the nominative case. We'll go through all these characteristics, but very fast. I plan to stop in more details on each of them in the future videos devoted to each of cases. But if you want to thoroughly revise them right now, the link to this PDF is in the description. So let's get quickly through these 8 models of the nominative case. Let me read them for you. Person performing action. Nina смотрит телевизор. Nina is watching TV. Person's or object's name. Это Андрей. This is Andrei. Вот книга. Here is the book. Address appeal. Андрей, иди сюда. Андрей, come here. Characteristic of a subject. Брат, врач. Brother is a doctor. Facts, events. Завтра экзамены. Tomorrow will be exams. Availability of an object, like there is. В городе есть театр. There is a theater in the city. An object of possession. У меня есть книга. I have a book. Person identification. Меня зовут Лена. My name is Lena. So, as you see, the nominative case is not only about the subject, but several things more. This first subject example was like the main title example for this case, but there are, and also will be, several different examples for each of those cases for which you will not be able to intuitively understand which case they belong to. Okay, the next case, the accusative case, is the direct object case. So the accusative case basically shows us the person or thing that has an action done directly to it, an object of the action. Анна купила журнал. Я встретил Анну. Anna bought a magazine. I met Anna. That would be the ideal example for the accusative case because we can see how a subject is doing a direct action on the object. So yes, we can say that the accusative case is the direct object case, and this example confirms it. But the accusative case again is not only about this, it's wider. There are like 5 basic characteristics of this case. Here are they. So, as you can notice, the accusative case in our list is the 4th case, and in this video it is the 2nd. It's because, well, numerally, the accusative case is the 4th Russian case, but it is often taught as the 2nd to foreigners because they often confuse it with the nominative case, which is the 1st, so they should be side by side, so you could better understand the difference. And it may be confused with other cases too, which are sometimes genitive and dative, so we usually strategically learn the accusative case as the 2nd to avoid some learning problems. In spite of that, it's 4th in the list of cases. Let's now quickly go through all the common examples of the accusative case. A direct object of action. Анна купила журнал. Anna bought a magazine. Я встретил Анну. I met Anna. Subject under the verb звать. Меня зовут Сергей. My name is Sergey. Duration, time. Я живу здесь месяц. I've been living here for a month. Direction of movement. Я иду в институт, на работу. I'm going to college to work. Time. Our day of the week. В среду у нас будет экскурсия. On Wednesday we'll have an excursion. Okay, the next case, the genitive case, is a possessive case and is basically a Russian way of saying of or this s with apostrophe, like in a brother's car. We do not have a preposition of in Russian, neither we have an analogy for this s with an apostrophe in Russian. So the ideal example would be this. Possession replaces of and s. Это центр города. Вот машина брата. This is the center of the city. Here is the brother's car. But also here are examples of a different kind. Overall, for the genitive case, there are 6 most common situations it is used in, and not all of them are obviously about this possession. Well, let's quickly go through these cases. Replaces of and s with apostrophe. Это центр города. This is the center of the city. Вот машина брата. Here is the brother's car. The absence of an object. У меня нет брата. I don't have a brother. В городе нет театра. There is no theater in the city. Quantity measure in combination with numerals. Сейчас 2 часа. It's 2 o'clock now. Ручки стоят 5 рублей. Pens cost 5 rubles. Month in date. 1 января, 1st of January. A starting point of movement. Они приехали из Англии, they came from England. Мы пришли с концерта, we came from a concert. A person who owns something. У Андрея есть машина, Andrew has a car. The dative case is the case corresponding to English preposition to. The dative case shows us the indirect object, the person or thing that is shown, told something. The ideal example will be this. Indirect object of an action. Я отправлю письмо отцу. I will send a letter to father. For the dative case, there are four most common situations it is used in, so here are these examples that may not directly fit this indirect object thing. The object of an action. Я звоню отцу. I'm calling my father. A person, thing whose age is spoken of. Это мой друг. Ему 20 лет. This is my friend. He's 20 years old. A person who needs something. Мне нужно пойти в банк. I need to go to the bank. A person as the goal of movement. Я иду к врачу. I'm going to the doctor. Okay, the next case. The instrumental case denotes an instrument used in the action. So the instrumental case is used to describe the means by which the action is performed. For example, by playing with a pen, or to describe accompanying stuff, but also in this with context, like with a friend. So the main title example would be this, with context. Я люблю чай с молоком. I love tea with milk. Рисовать карандашом. To draw with a pencil. So we see here that the instrumental case is used in this with context. However, note that in Russian, in this case, we sometimes can omit with, like in the second example, because in Russian the preposition s, which corresponds to with, is a little bit different to English. In Russian, it means something like together, and to use this preposition in to draw with a pencil will be incorrect in Russian. So our Russian with is a bit narrower. Overall, for the instrumental case, there are four most common situations it is used in. With the verb заниматься, to do, to go. Брат занимается спортом. My brother goes in for sports. The profession of a person with the verb быть, to be. Борис будет инженером. Boris will be an engineer. Object of joint action. Отец гуляет с сыном. Father is walking with his son. Отец разговаривает с сыном. Father is talking to his son. After S, which is with. Я люблю чай с молоком. I like tea with milk. The last case, the prepositional case, is used with many common prepositions such as in, on, at, and generally used to indicate position. So the ideal example, place, in, on, at. Книга на столе, в столе. The book is on the table or in the table. But also here are additional examples. For the prepositional case, there are three most common situations it is used in. The object of speech, thought. Я часто думаю о семье. I often think about my family. Place. Книга в столе, на столе. The book is in the table, on the table. Means of transportation. Студенты едут в театр на автобусе. Students are going to the theater by bus. So you should understand that there are dozens of characteristics that fit into 6 cases. 30 characteristics we've just gone through are the most common. Case itself in general is only a basic approximate characteristic of a word and tells us like a direction to go and which rule to use. But these characteristics, sub-roles or models or examples which you saw, only they will teach you how to decide on the case, because the basic characteristics provided by a case description is very vague, so cases are basically just rules, patterns to follow. To learn to decide on a case, there are about 30 most common situations distributed among 6 cases, and you need to master all those situations via massive practice and exercise. The list of these 30 situations we have just gone through is available in the description to this video. Okay, so there are 6 cases in Russian, and in different cases the same word would look differently. Usually and most likely the word will change insignificantly, it will change its ending. But sometimes the same word can change completely. Here are the examples how words endings can change in different cases. So as you see in this table, each of the represented words has a different ending, so that's how we understand the role of a word in a sentence, by its ending. And here is an example how a word can transform significantly in different cases. These are personal pronouns that behave the same way as in English, they alter. In the Russian language, ending changing is the main instrument of changing case. The complete alteration is not that common. So the beginner's Russian grammar, which teaches you to start speaking, is mostly about how to learn to change endings of Russian words. But as for the fully transformable words, it teaches these too. But basically you memorize them and later reinforce those by exercising and practicing. So, what learning Russian cases is about? Actually, to learn Russian cases basically means 2 things. First, to learn to choose or identify the case. Second, to learn to decline, transform words into a needed case. So, to learn cases, in other words, we actually need again 2. First, to learn to understand which of the 6 cases we need to choose in a particular situation. And second, to learn to transform words into a case of our choice. It mostly means to learn to properly change endings and sometimes to alter words themselves. So, for each case there is a number of situations it can be used in. Today we spoke about those situations. So, as I've told before, there are totally about 30 common situations distributed among 6 cases. By learning and exercising, practicing with those situations, you'll develop a skill to choose a case or to identify which case was used. This skill will come itself through practice. The link to the PDF with the most common situations for Russian cases, which we went through in this video, is in the description. And see you in the next video, which will be devoted to the second phase of our cases mechanism, which is word alteration of endings.